Visit the website at jcs.live.
Early detection saves lives.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Good evening and welcome to Lead Story. I'm Nika Lewis. Tensions are high in the southern Caribbean after recent U.S. military strikes and Venezuela's declaration of a state of emergency, bringing into focus a decades-old border dispute with Guyana that now overlaps with major offshore oil finds and shifting regional alliances. Tonight we ask, what does Maduro's strategy mean for regional stability? How is Guyana protecting its oil-driven rise? And what role will Trinidad and other Caribbean states play as these fault lines widen? But before that, we'll take a look at some of the happenings in Parliament earlier today. I believe that we should have that for you a little bit later on in the program, because we are talking about tropical storm Melissa and what's expected. But ahead of that, we're up on a break. We'll be right back to discuss these and other developments on Lead Story. Stay with us.
Jamaica. Yo, what are you? Oh, man, none of that. No, brother, no, man.
You see you ever play ref? No, game, no play.
Yeah, but I look a bad game. No, I said, place when you come from, brother, I want to live good, man. I want to live good, brethren. No shake hand, I can play a little bad, brethren.
Really have to shake hand?
Yeah, man, and no badness, brethren. Just live good, man. Come together, and make the violence done.
Visit VC's Electrical Sales today at 21 Mannings Hill Road, Kingston 8. Come see why VC's Electrical Sales is your go-to for quality electrical supplies at great prices. Check our website to see a sample of our products or call us for the full inventory at 876-622-9800. VC's Electrical Sales, also known as VC's Electrical Depot.
Lead like the world is watching.
Because it is. The Impact Leadership Summit brings the ultimate business advantage on November 4 at the AC Marriott Hotel, Kingston, Jamaica.
Learn from global speaker and entrepreneur, Vusi Tembakwa.
Leaders, hear me and hear me now. Do they understand the calling and are they God-led?
Maxwell Leadership Coach, Erica McKenzie.
Oxford Rhodes Scholar and global investor, David Walcott.
Investment Guru and Senator Ramon Small Ferguson.
This is where leaders rise and impact begins.
Sponsored by Creative Brands and Concepts,
The Summit,
BYD,
AC Hotel,
and Intelligent Multimedia. For more info, call 876-438-1135.
Hey everybody, I'm Yendi, and this is Odyssey with Yendi. In this space, we connect with some of your favorite people as they share their journeys. Here we have some unfiltered conversations as we deep dive into their inspirations, motivations, and experiences to inspire our own life journey.
Odyssey with Yendi, brought to you by Grace, Singer, and IslandNet Services.
Where it all begins. The quest to become great. Inspired by those who went before them, these four boys dream of playing in the ISSA schoolboy football competitions.
Will you score this for Casey? Will you score? It's a shot! It's a goal!
And it's a shot, and it's a goal! And Casey has won the Manning Cup, and they will play Clarendon College in the Olivia Shield.
Welcome back to Lead Story. Thanks so much for staying with us. So we had said to you before the break that Minister Matthew Samuda had given an update to the nation's parliament about the tropical storm Melissa that's expected to impact Jamaica this week. Well, we've started feeling some heavy rains, but we're understanding Melissa's effects are really going to be dawning on us sometime tomorrow afternoon. So let's take a look at what the minister had to say.
Tropical storm Melissa is mere hours away from the island, dispatching already torrents of rainfall in sections of the island. Climate Change and Environment Minister Matthew Samuda updated the Parliament on the state of readiness and protocols. He notes the storm is just off the coast of Hispaniola and is on a path towards the island as he urges Jamaicans to pray and prepare.
Now that the area of low pressure has strengthened to a tropical storm, the system has slowed significantly and further decreased in the forward speed, and further decreases in the forward speed is indeed projected. Hence, the system is likely to linger in the Caribbean waters for the next few days and take a little while longer to reach our shores. We are now expecting to start experiencing heavy rains sometime tomorrow night at current projections. But to note that the situation is indeed fluid and the Hurricane Center and our own Met Service is indeed monitoring closely. Now that the area of current projections show that it could intensify to a Category 1 hurricane by latest Saturday, fueled by unusually warm waters of the Caribbean at this time of the year. I must emphasize that the increased heat is no doubt in our mind related to broad-based global climate change.
The minister says emergency teams are on full alert and reminds over 880 shelters are available for use if needed. He impresses on locals in flood-prone areas to be on high alert.
Meteorological models suggest that Jamaica could experience heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and possible flash flooding, especially in the east, as the storm tracks northward later this week. We are particularly mindful of the potential for landslides in our mountainous parishes, especially in areas where soil saturation is already high, as we would have seen the October rains on in earnest even this afternoon. Madam Speaker, while the center of Melissa's projected path currently points towards Hispaniola, the storm's proximity to Jamaica demands our highest level of vigilance. As we have learned through experience, tropical systems of this nature can shift course with little warning, and even indirect impacts can bring significant disruption to lives, livelihoods, and property.
He also says teams from the NWC are dispatched to assess drains, and relevant agencies and ministry protocols have been activated. Well, things came to a head during the question and answer session when several attempts to interrogate payment of contractors by Southeast St. Mary Member of Parliament newcomer Christopher Brown were blocked and steered towards the minister's statement as per the standing orders. This didn't sit well with the opposition members, who soon grew visibly upset. Despite several efforts to continue the line of questioning deemed unrelated to the minister's statement and the core responsibilities, the opposition leader demanded an answer from the speaker before staging a walkout.
We are attempting to ask questions arising from the statement. The statement was a wide-ranging statement. It not only touched and concerned the specific minister's portfolio, he also said he was speaking on behalf of the Minister of Local Government, who is overseas, who has direct responsibility for disaster preparedness. On more than one occasion, the member on this side who was sought to ask a question has been prevented from completing the question, and instead a point of order has been taken, which I don't know what the ruling was, or you yourself have intervened to prevent the statement, the question from being asked. I want to know what the question was that the member for Southeast St. Mary was seeking to ask. I don't know what his question is.
Well, we'll have more on that development in Lead Story Prime at 8 p.m., where we'll expose and explore more of what's happening or likely to happen come tomorrow and for the rest of the week concerning that storm. But the conversation about the regional developments and U.S. naval involvement continues, and we have a guest on Zoom. He is Dr. Gonzalez. He is the former director at the UWI's Institute of International Relations in St. Augustine, and he's joining us to help understand or better understand what's happening just out there in Trinidad's water in relation to U.S. naval vessels and this development around the Essequibo region. Welcome, Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, my pleasure, yes.
Dr. Gonzalez, firstly, what does Maduro's strategy mean for regional stability?
Well, I'm not clear what Maduro's strategy exactly means for regional strategy. Maduro is trying to survive in government. And as you know, since Chavez came to power in 1998, the Chavistas have been trying to manage government and to try to pursue a path of development which is different from what previous governments did. So that he is basically trying to pursue what you may call the kind of socialist path to development in Venezuela and to align himself with a lot of countries who are not necessarily allies of the United States. So in that sense, I think he has problems with the United States. And we have seen since 1998 or even probably since 2002, when the United States attempted to overthrow the government, we have seen that all governments in Venezuela since that time have had problems with the United States. U.S. governments have tried to deal with it differently. The Democrats have more or less pursued negotiation, and they have attempted to try to work out some kind of arrangement while at the same time employing sanctions. Whereas you see for the Trump administrations, they tend to use what they call maximum pressure, that is gunboat diplomacy and much heavier sanctions to try to get rid of the regime. So the whole idea is that basically the United States has problems with the regime in Caracas, either because the regime does not support what the United States does, or the United States is not getting, for example, in terms of access to oil and other things, they're not getting that in Venezuela. So in terms of regional stability, I would say basically that is what is implied here.
It's interesting that you mentioned, Dr. Gonzalez, about the oil and maybe the U.S.'s interest in protecting that or otherwise, because we're watching here in Jamaica and we're wondering how exactly is Guyana protecting its oil-driven rise. Certainly it will be attractive to many outsiders.
Yes, well, Guyana is protecting its oil. That is not in contention here. It is insofar as Venezuela is claiming the land. Venezuela, as you know, is claiming 2/3 of the Essequibo. And while that part, that oil is not exactly a reclaimed area, there's another part which falls in the reclaimed area, that is in the economic zone, which the Venezuelans do not want ExxonMobil they do not want ExxonMobil to drill in that area. But that area is in contention, and as you know, some time ago, there was a lot of talk about war, and Venezuela had mobilized itself to attack Guyana, and they have declared that area a part of Venezuela. But insofar as they have agreed on a kind of peaceful approach for that, that has not come back up at this point in time. What is in contention now is the whole idea of drug traffickers, as the Americans say, or the question of regime change in Venezuela. I tend to think the issue is much more one of regime change in Venezuela. And the United States is trying to use this gunboat diplomacy to try to drive the government out of power. They're putting a lot of pressure on the government, have all these massive war machines, these destroyers and these submarines and these amphibian vessels passing all outside of Venezuela and planes flying very close to them, trying to pressurize the regime, possibly trying to get the military to revolt against the government in Venezuela. So far, they have not been successful, but they are keeping up that pressure, and I think in the hope that they may get some kind of change in Venezuela. They were negotiating, and they have recently stopped negotiating, so one has to assume that to some extent they're looking to intensify that pressure. people have been expecting that they may make strikes into Venezuela. We have not seen those as yet, but we in Trinidad, we are expecting that sometime soon they may probably start that. None of us know exactly where this is going because all of this is shrouded in a lot of ambiguity. The United States is not saying clearly what they're intending to do, and they're just leaving us to speculate as to what is likely to happen. So we have to just simply wait and see how this will pan out.
Right. Well, Dr. Gonzalez, we're up on another break, but do stay with us, viewers. We'll be right back to continue this discussion.
To develop state-of-the-art security solutions like our new Total Connect smart home automation system that gives you 24/7 access to control your appliances, lights, cameras, and doors using your smartphone, tablet, or PC. As the most trusted electronic security company in Jamaica, Hawkeye has the fastest response times to get to you when you need us most. Trust Hawkeye's Total Connect. Hawkeye, securing what matters most.
Lead like the world is watching.
Because it is. The Impact Leadership Summit brings the ultimate business advantage on November 4 at the AC Marriott Hotel, Kingston, Jamaica.
Learn from global speaker and entrepreneur Vusi Temba.
Leaders, hear me and hear me now. Do they understand the calling and are they God-led?
Maxwell Leadership Coach Erica McKenzie.
Oxford Rhodes Scholar and global investor David Walcott.
Investment Guru and Senator Ramon Small Ferguson.
This is where leaders rise and impact begins.
Sponsored by Creative Brands and Concepts,
The Summit,
TYD,
AC Hotel,
and Intelligent Multimedia. For more info, call 876-438-113.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Recent U.S. strikes in the Southern Caribbean and subsequent Venezuelan emergency declarations have heightened regional tensions and prompted UN calls for restraint, especially in regards to the North America rather. Guyana's offshore discoveries have accelerated its global profile and attracted major powers' attention, altering regional geopolitics. Discussing this matter with me is Dr. Anthony Gonzalez, retired director of the Institute of International Relations at UWI St. Augustine. Welcome back, Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, so my pleasure.
Before we went to that break, we discussed some of the situations or developments around the Essequibo region, and we know that there are naval vessels, you mentioned submarines and other vessels that are now in Trinidad's waters and elsewhere. But what role will Trinidad and other Caribbean states ideally be playing as these fault lines widen between Guyana and Venezuela?
Well, let me just clarify a few things first.
Sure.
I'm not sure that there are American vessels in Trinidad waters. My impression is that the American ships are staying outside of national waters. They're outside of our territorial waters. They're outside, probably somewhere in the economic zone. Okay. And it's the same thing for Venezuela as well as Colombia. Secondly, it's not a direct conflict between Venezuela and Guyana at this point. At this point in time, it's not that. And it could probably lead to that, but at this point in time, it's mainly a question of the pressure being applied to the Venezuelan government to get it to change its policy or to get it to come out of power. So I'm tending to focus much more on that at this point in time. The Guyana-Venezuela thing could probably come out of that, but that is to some extent down the road. Now, what we're seeing is that the United States is having some difficulty in forcing the government out. So far, they have been there for 2 months with all these vessels patrolling around the coastal waters and so forth. And there have been no revolt in Venezuela against the government. The government has not fallen. They have said that they have taken out drug traffickers, or at least they have said they have come to taking out drug traffickers, and they have defined the Venezuelan president as a drug trafficker, and they want to take out his drug cartels and so forth. And that has led to some strikes against small boats in the region here. and about 27 or 32 people have been killed. Now, they have used lethal force to get rid of these people without any kind of due process. That is to say, there has been no sort of lawful trial of these people. We don't know who exactly these people are. In one or two cases, we know who have been killed. For instance, there are 2 people who have been killed here from Trinidad. And the Colombian government, president, for example, he has been talking about this very openly, saying that this is unlawful and that these people should be given some kind of due process. So what we are witnessing is really an attack on vessels in the sea, and these vessels are being just blown out of the water, and everybody on board is being killed, and all that is on board is being destroyed.
As an expert looking on in international relations, Dr. Gonzalez, is this something unusual when it comes to the Caribbean and the United States? We've seen quite a bit of intervention over history and time, with the U.S. coming into, one matter comes up in the Caribbean, the U.S. intervenes, and then we have certain other developments later on in history. Could history be repeating itself with the Venezuela situation now?
Yes, well, we have had a history of U.S. intervention. Under the Monroe Doctrine, the United States has intervened in several countries in the hemisphere here. In the Dominican Republic, they have sent their soldiers all into Central America and so forth. We are well aware of that. But over the years, we have tried to resist, and we have tried to get the Americans to accept that this should be a zone of peace. And we do not want any kind of intervention of that type. We do not want any kind of intervention, military intervention in Venezuela, for instance. Yes. I think the majority of countries, for example, if you looked at the recent meeting of the Latin American countries, in what they call CELAC, for instance, you see where they talk about non-intervention, and they have called on the U.S. not to intervene in these countries. So we are all on board with respect to this question of military intervention, and we do not want to see the United States intervene in these countries. At the same time, I don't think we are in favor of this gunboat diplomacy, this threatening of the government and so on. We may not agree with the Maduro government. A lot of us may not like it because we may not like the way it is in power. For instance, there was an election, and that we're not sure that the majority was not probably allowed to take power. So we have concerns there. But at the same time, we are concerned about military intervention and the use of gunboat diplomacy. So I think that is what is preoccupying the minds of people in this part of the world. All these ships down here, which is something quite strange. As I said, it hasn't happened since probably the attacks of the Central American countries, or since the invasion of the Dominican Republic, or the bear pigs issue and so forth. And we in CARICOM, for example, we have taken a very clear position on this question of the Caribbean being a zone of peace. Yes. We want to see the Caribbean remain a place where conflict is negotiated and there's a peaceful settlement of disputes in this area. And we do not want to see the use of force and big power intervention in this part of the world. So the Caribbean countries, of course, are very clear on that. Definitely Trinidad has taken a slightly different position. It is supporting U.S. use of lethal force against these drug traffickers. And it has gone against the CARICOM countries with respect to this idea of a zone of peace. Now, that's a kind of odd position. I don't fully understand where that is coming from, although I tend to believe that this is being done because the government in Trinidad is trying to get more U.S. assistance, more U.S. security assistance to deal with the crime problem in this country. The government came to power on the belief that it would get rid of crime in the country. And as you know, the country is very fearful of crime. There's a tremendous fear of crime here, so that the country is told that they can get rid of crime, or the government is going to get rid of crime, and probably the support of the United States would be very helpful in terms of getting rid of this crime.
Are there political implications for the government of Trinidad in doing this? And certainly in CARICOM, will there not be some amount of clapback coming out of that decision?
Well, I don't see much of a backlash in CARICOM, because we always disagree in CARICOM. We disagreed, for example, over the invasion of Grenada. We disagreed over, for instance, in the first time around, for example, when Trump was there, we disagreed with respect to the recognition of government in Venezuela. So there's that kind of disagreement. And also in Trinidad, what you have is that the government is supporting this use of lethal force, and the majority of the population here is not saying anything. We already have, for instance, about 60 or 70 extrajudicial killings, for example, of criminals here. Well, criminals, as I said, we don't know if they're exactly criminals, but we have these killings here, and the population here is very satisfied. The population here tends to believe that these are criminals and you might as well wipe them out. So similarly, I think they tend to feel, well, you know, these are criminals outside there trafficking drugs, and if the Americans wipe them out, it may be a good thing. So even in the country itself, I don't think the government is losing any major support on that question.
Okay.
Maybe I don't think people are happy with the position of her support for the United States generally, but I don't think it's making much of a difference in terms of her base political support. But we have to, in a sense, to wait and see how this unfolds. If the Americans go into Venezuela and they attack government positions and government people and so on, officials in the Venezuelan government and so on, I think we may tend to see a change here. I don't think the majority of people in this country would support that. And even worse, for example, if, for instance, the Americans were to give them some kind of base here to launch an attack against Venezuela. Now, our Prime Minister did say, for example, when she made the first declaration that if the United States attacks, Venezuela attacks Guyana, she would give Trinidad as a base to the Americans. But I'm not sure to what extent that is a strong statement that would be approved